I was holding my chipped blue coffee mug when my boyfriend looked me dead in the face and said, "I'm not going to the cabin anymore." And I stayed quiet, even as something inside me cracked, because why would he say that after we planned this for almost a year? He kept talking like it was normal, like my silence meant permission. And I just stared at the little paper list I had taped to the fridge, the one that said cabin keys, grocery pickup, extra socks, ring box, and I swallowed the shock so hard my throat hurt. My name is Waverly, I am 31, and I work as an operations manager at a dental group, which mostly means I fix problems before anyone notices they exist. And that weekend was supposed to be the one time I did not fix anything. His name is Hayes. He is 30, and we have been together a little over 2 years. We are not messy people. We are not the couple that screams in public or posts passive-aggressive captions. We are the couple friends point at and say, "See, that is what stable looks like." We split groceries, we take turns cooking, we plan ahead. We had a shared calendar and everything. That cabin weekend was in the calendar so long it felt permanent. It was supposed to be my birthday gift to myself and to us, not a party. Not dinner with 10 people yelling over each other. I wanted quiet. I wanted mountains. I wanted the two of us in a tiny rental cabin with cheap board, games, and a fireplace that made the whole place smell like pine and smoke. I wanted to wake up to cold air, wear his hoodie, and hear him move around in the kitchen while I pretended I could sleep in. I also wanted to propose. I know how that sounds. People still expect the man to do it. But I had been waiting for someday for a while, and I was tired of someday. I bought a simple ring with a thin band, nothing flashy. I had it tucked into the pocket of my coat in a little box, and I rehearsed it in my head in a way I would never admit out loud. I kept thinking, this is our weekend. This is when we stop circling each other and finally choose. For months, Hayes was into it. He sent me cabin links. He argued about whether we should be near a lake. He said he wanted a place with a porch so we could drink coffee outside even if it was freezing. He took time off work. I put down deposits. I made reservations. I packed little things I knew he liked, like those ridiculous spicy jerky sticks and his favorite instant cocoa. We even had a joke about it. Every time life got annoying, one of us would say, "Cabin soon," and the other would breathe out like it was a prayer. Then, a few days before we were supposed to leave, he started checking his phone in a way that made my stomach tighten. Not the normal scrolling. Not the quick glance. The kind where the screen tilts away from you without thinking. The kind where the corners of his mouth lift, then flatten again like he is holding something back. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself he was coordinating work. I told myself I was tired. On Wednesday night, I was folding laundry on the couch. Hayes was at the counter leaning on his elbows, tapping on his phone like he was playing a game. I said, "We should stop at that little market in town, the one with the fresh bread. Remember? You wanted to try it." He did not look up. "Yeah, sure." I waited. "Are you okay?" He exhaled like I had asked him to lift something heavy. "So, there's something." The mug in my hands was still warm. I remember that detail because it felt so normal compared to what he said next. He said, "Sloane's back in town." I blinked. "Sloane who?" He finally looked at me. "Sloane, from high school." I knew the name barely. One of those names you hear once in passing and it sticks because it feels like it belongs to another life. I had never met her. Hayes never talked about her. I did not see her in his photos, not even the old ones. He did not follow her anywhere. If you asked me to describe her, I could not. "Oh," I said, because I did not know what else to say. "Okay, and?" He set his phone down like he was preparing for a fight. "She's only here for the weekend. She's leaving right after. Everyone's going to see her. I kind of have to go." I laughed once, but it did not sound like laughter. "You mean, like, after we get back?" He shook his head. "No, like, that weekend. She's meeting everybody. There's breakfast planned, and maybe a bonfire. It's a whole thing." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline that never came. "Hayes, that's our cabin weekend." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I know, but we can do the cabin anytime. Sloane is only here now." The air in the room changed. It felt thinner. I could hear the dryer humming in the other room, like life was trying to keep going. "We can do the cabin anytime," I repeated slowly, because my brain could not accept it. "Hayes, I took time off. You took time off. We paid. I planned this for a year." He shrugged in that casual way that can be more insulting than yelling. "Babe, it's not that deep. We'll reschedule." Not that deep. I looked at the laundry in my lap, the shirt of his I was folding, and I suddenly hated how familiar it was. Like I had been building a home out of routines while he was treating it like a temporary rental. "Why is she suddenly so important?" I asked as calmly as I could. His eyes flicked away for half a second. "She's just an old friend. She's been through stuff. She wants to see everyone, and I promised." "You promised," I said, "but you promised me first." He frowned like he did not like the math. "You're making me feel guilty." I felt my face go hot, and I hated that too. "You should feel guilty. I'm not trying to control you. I'm asking why you are choosing a high school friend you never mention over something we planned for almost a year." He sat down hard on the bar stool like he was the victim of this conversation. "Why are you being like this? It's one weekend." I opened my mouth, then closed it, because if I spoke in that moment, I was going to say things I could not take back. I was going to tell him about the ring. I was going to tell him about the exact moment I planned it, the exact photo I saved for inspiration, the exact way I pictured his face when I asked. And I refused to hand him that, not when he was already walking away from me. So I did the thing I always do. I got quiet. I stood up, gathered the laundry, and walked it to the bedroom with steady hands. I could feel him watching me, waiting for me to explode, waiting for the dramatic moment where he could label me crazy and feel justified. In the bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the closet door like it might open into a different life. I heard him behind me. "Waverly." I did not turn around. He softened his voice. "Don't do that. Don't shut down." I almost laughed again. He hated silence unless he was the one using it. I finally said, "Do what you want." He paused. "So you're saying it's fine?" I turned my head just enough to meet his eyes. "I'm saying you will do what you want anyway." His jaw tightened like he did not like hearing the truth out loud. He grabbed his phone and walked out of the room. That night, he slept beside me like nothing happened. He reached for my my waist in his sleep, and I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling like a stranger in my own bed. My mind kept circling one question over and over. Why now? Thursday morning, I went to work and tried to be normal. I scheduled staff. I fixed a supply issue. I smiled at patients. I answered emails. But underneath everything, I had this buzzing hum of humiliation. Like I had been building up to this weekend, imagining it as proof that we were solid. And he had just taken a marker and crossed it out. At lunch, I opened our shared calendar and stared at the cabin entry. It was still there. Cabin weekend, the little pine tree icon I added for fun. It felt like a joke. I texted Hayes, "Are you really canceling?" He replied, "I told you. We can go another time." Another time. Like our promises were coupons that never expired. When I got home, he was in the kitchen acting light, humming, opening the fridge like he was deciding what snack to eat, not deciding whether our relationship mattered. "Hey," he said casually. "So, Saturday morning, I'm going to meet them for breakfast. You can come if you want." I stared at him. "You want me to come watch you reunite with a girl you never talk about? On the weekend we were supposed to be alone together?" He rolled his eyes. "See, this is what I mean. You're making it weird." I felt something settle in me then. Not rage, not tears. Something colder. Like the part of me that always tried to keep us smooth and happy finally stepped back and said, "Fine, let it be weird." That night, I pulled the ring box out of my coat pocket and held it in my palm. It was so small, so hopeful. I stared at it until my eyes burned, then I slid it into my bedside drawer and shut it quietly. Friday, I called the cabin rental and confirmed our reservation. I asked about the deposit. No refunds. The woman on the phone was kind, like she felt my disappointment through the line. After I hung up, I texted my best friend, Holland. "Are you free this weekend?" She called me immediately. "What happened?" I stared out the window at the gray afternoon sky. He canceled. "For some girl from high school." There was a beat of silence, then Holland said, "Oh, no, absolutely not. Say less, I'll pack." Her boyfriend Reed offered to drive. His brother Grant said he would come too, because Grant is the kind of person who thinks a miserable weekend should be attacked with snacks and sarcasm. I did not ask them to. They just did it, and something about that made my throat tighten, because it was such a simple contrast. People who cared did not need convincing. Friday night, Hayes said, "I'm glad you calmed down," like my silence was an apology. I smiled at him, soft and polite. "Yeah, me too." I let him believe it. I let him relax. I watched him become comfortable again, like he thought he won. Saturday morning, he showered and put on his nicest sweatshirt. He tried to kiss my cheek on the way out. I turned my head like I was reaching for my mug, and he kissed air. "Don't be like that," he said, half laughing. I kept my voice light. "Have fun." He hesitated for half a second, like he expected a trap. Then he left. The moment the door shut, I moved fast. I rolled my suitcase out of the closet. I grabbed the cabin keys. I checked the ring drawer, then stopped myself and shut it again. Not yet. I packed like my body was on autopilot, but inside my head was strangely calm, like the decision had already been made, and my emotions were just catching up. When Holland and Reed pulled up, I walked outside with my bag and locked the door behind me. I did not leave a note. I did not send a dramatic text. I did not announce anything. I just left. In the car, Holland handed me an iced coffee like it was a life raft. "Okay," she said. "Talk to me." "What exactly did he say?" I stared at the road stretching ahead. "He said the cabin can be any time. He said she's only here now. He said I'm making it weird." Holland made a sound of disgust. Classic, minimizing, turning it around. Grant leaned forward from the backseat. "So what's the plan?" I looked down at my phone. Hayes had not texted. Probably still laughing at breakfast, telling some story about high school, acting like he did not just cancel the woman he lived with. I unlocked my phone and opened our shared location app, the one we used for safety. His dot was moving somewhere in town. I said quietly, "My plan is to go to the cabin." "Exactly like we planned." Reed nodded. "Good." Holland squeezed my hand. "And your other plan?" I swallowed. "My other plan is to stop begging someone to choose me." We drove for hours. The city faded. The air got colder. Mountains rose ahead like a wall. I kept telling myself I was fine, but then a song came on. One Hayes used to play when we cooked together, and my eyes filled without warning. I wiped my face quickly, embarrassed, and Holland said softly, "You don't have to be tough in front of us." I looked out the window and whispered, "I feel stupid." "You're not stupid," she said. "You're just loyal." And he counted on that. When we reached the cabin, it was even prettier than the photos. Snow in patches, tall pines, a porch swing that creaked in the wind. It smelled like wood and cold stone when we opened the door. I stood there for a second, suitcase by my feet, and the reality of it hit me. This was supposed to be ours. Grant lit the fireplace like he had done it his whole life. Reed hauled bags inside. Holland started unpacking groceries, chatting like she was trying to fill the silence before it swallowed me. I walked into the bedroom and stared at the bed. 2 pillows, 2 nightstands, a tiny lamp that made the room glow warm. I sat down slowly, and for the first time all week, I let my face fall. My chest ached in a deep, slow way, like grief. My phone buzzed. A text from Hayes. "Where are you?" I stared at the message for a long moment. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I typed, "At the cabin. The trip is still happening. I will be home Monday." I hit send and set my phone down. It buzzed again immediately. "What the hell, Waverly? That's messed up." Another buzz. "You're being cruel." Another. "Stop playing games." I did not reply. I turned my phone to silent. I walked back into the living room where everyone was laughing softly over something stupid, and I tried to breathe like I belonged in my own life. That evening, we sat on the porch with Coco. The sky was clear, stars sharp like they were cut into the dark. The cold air made my nose sting. I should have felt peaceful, but my mind kept pulling back to that name, Sloan. I opened social media without thinking, just to distract myself. Then my thumb froze, because the first thing I saw was a story posted by someone I barely knew, an old acquaintance from Hayes' hometown. And there on the screen was Hayes, smiling in a way I had not seen in months, leaning close to a woman with long, dark hair and a familiar laugh, captured in a blurry moment. And her name was tagged Sloan. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like falling. Quick pause, this part is for me. Some nights I'm editing and I want to quit. But then I see your comments and I keep going. Tap like, subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from. Okay, continuing. I stared at the story again, zooming in with shaking fingers. Hayes' hand was on her lower back. Casual, comfortable, like it had always belonged there. In the background, someone's voice said, finally reunited, like it was a romance, not a coincidence. I felt my throat tighten. The room around me blurred for a second. The fire popped behind me, warm and steady, while my body went cold. Holland noticed. Waverly? What is it? I turned the phone toward her without speaking. Her face changed instantly. Oh my God. Reed's jaw clenched. That's not just a friend hug. Grant leaned closer. Look at his hand. I swallowed, forcing air into my lungs. My voice came out small. He told me she was just an old friend. Holland took my phone and tapped again, then paused. Wait, there's more. She handed it back and I saw the next clip in the story. Only a second long, but it was enough. Hayes was lifting a champagne flute. Sloane was laughing beside him, and on Hayes' wrist, clear as day, was a thin braided bracelet. The one I made for him on our first trip together. The one he claimed he lost months ago. My mouth went dry, because that meant he did not lose it. He took it off, and he put it back on for her. The porch swing creaked under us, and the cold air kept biting at my cheeks, but I barely felt any of it anymore. All I could see was that bracelet on his wrist. The one he claimed vanished somewhere between the couch cushions and the laundry basket. The one I searched for with him while he played innocent, shrugging and saying, guess it's gone. My hands were trembling, so I wrapped them around my mug like it could hold me together. My mind went back through the last few months in sharp flashes. Hayes taking longer showers. Hayes being weirdly protective of his phone. Hayes suddenly wearing sleeves more often. I always told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself love meant trust. But trust is not supposed to make you feel stupid. Holland watched my face, then quietly took my phone and started screen recording the story. We're not losing that, she said. I nodded, but I could not speak. My throat felt packed with cotton. The betrayal was one thing. The carefulness of it was another. He did not just stumble into a reunion. He prepared for it. He took off a piece of me and put it back on when it benefited him. Grant leaned back and let out a slow breath. Okay, so he lied. The question is, how far is he willing to go with the lie? That question landed in me like a stone. How far? I thought about him telling me I was making it weird. I thought about him saying I was being selfish for wanting my own birthday weekend. I thought about him calling me dramatic while he was out there touching another woman like she was familiar. I set my mug down very gently because my hands were shaking too much to risk spilling. Then I stood up. Holland stood too, instantly. Where are you going? Inside, I said, and my voice sounded calm, even though I felt like I was floating above my own body. I need to sit down. I need to think. Reed nodded like he understood something important. We're right behind you. Inside the cabin, the fireplace glow made everything feel unreal, like we were actors in a cozy scene while my life was turning into something ugly. I walked to the little dining table and sat, staring at the wood grain until it stopped moving in my vision. Then I did the first thing I always do when my world tilts. I organized. I opened my phone and pulled up the story again, even though my stomach twisted. I took screenshots. I screen recorded. I captured his hand on her back. I captured his smile. I captured the bracelet. Each tap felt like swallowing glass, but I kept going, because the one thing I refused to be was unprepared. Holland sat across from me with her own phone out. Do you share locations? Yes, I said. We both do. For safety. Okay, she said steady. Look at his timeline. Not to spy. Just to confirm. I opened the app. His dot had stopped moving. It was parked somewhere I recognized. A little bar on the edge of downtown that he never took me to. He said it was too loud. He said it was full of college kids. Yet there he was. My fingers hovered. For a second, I almost closed the app. The old me wanted to stay in the dark. The old me wanted the excuse of not knowing. But that woman in the story did not look like a harmless old friend. That looked like unfinished business. I tapped the history. There were gaps. Not normal gaps. Not the kind where the signal drops. There were blank stretches that looked like someone had turned something off, then turned it back on. I stared at it until my eyes burned. He turned it off. I whispered. Holland's eyes narrowed. You can do that? Yes, I said, still staring. He told me he never does. He told me he thinks it's sketchy. Grant gave a short, humorless laugh. People love to accuse you of the thing they're doing. My heart thudded louder, and suddenly all I could hear was blood in my ears. I opened my messages with Hayes and scrolled, looking for anything that felt different now. The last few texts were him calling me cruel. Him saying I was gaslighting him. Him telling me to stop playing games. Stop playing games. I read that line again and felt something inside me cool down. I had been playing honest. He was the one playing games. Reed leaned on the counter behind us. Do you have access to his email? No, I said quickly. We don't do that. Holland's voice stayed gentle. Any shared accounts? Any shared receipts? Anything that shows he agreed to the trip? I swallowed. The cabin confirmation is in my email. And the calendar. And I have the deposit receipt. Save it, Holland said. Not because you need permission to be hurt. Because he is already rewriting reality. That hit like a punch. Rewriting reality. That was exactly what he was doing. He did not say, I want to see her because I miss her. He said, I have to. He did not say, I changed my mind. He said, you're making it a big deal. He did not say, I hurt you. He said, you're selfish. I pulled up our shared calendar and took screenshots of the cabin weekend entry, the time off request, the notes I had typed in. I pulled up the cabin booking and saved the receipt. I saved everything in a folder and sent it to Holland, then to Reed, then to myself in a separate email thread. Quietly, cleanly, no drama, just proof. Then I sat there staring at my phone, and the next thought slid into my mind like a blade. What if this was not the first time? I hated myself for thinking it, but the thought was already there, sharp and awake. Hayes had not just changed plans. He had changed his tone. He had been ready for me to be upset. He had been ready to paint me as the villain. That does not happen overnight. Holland watched me and said softly, talk to me. What are you thinking? I exhaled through my nose. I'm thinking about the bracelet. He told me he lost it, but it wasn't lost. He took it off. Grant's voice was quiet, which means he's been thinking about her, and he knew it it mattered, I added, my voice cracking slightly. He knew it would hurt me if she saw it or if he wore it around her, so he removed it, like I was something he could hide. The words tasted bitter. Holland reached across the table and held my hand. Okay, we're not going to spiral into what ifs without facts. Facts. I nodded. Facts were solid. Facts did not twist. I opened social media again and clicked Sloane's name. Her profile was public. That almost made me laugh. Boldness always looks like confidence until you realize it is just carelessness. Her recent photos loaded. There she was, smiling in a mirror. There she was at a beach. There she was holding a dog. And there, buried a few posts down, was a picture that made my stomach drop again. Hayes. Not recently, not obviously, but he was there in the background, blurred at what looked like a bonfire. My fingers went numb. I clicked on the date. It was not from this weekend. It was from months ago. I stared, not breathing, as my brain tried to catch up. How is that possible? I whispered. Holland leaned in. What? I turned the phone toward her. Look, her face went still. That's him. Reed stepped closer. That's definitely him. Grant frowned. So she's been posting him. My mouth went dry again, but he never told me. He never said she existed. Not once. I scrolled further, heart hammering. There were more, not many. Just little glimpses. A shoulder here, a laugh there, a tagged location that matched a bar Hayes once said he had never been to. My hands started shaking again, but this time it was not just pain. It was clarity. This was not a surprise weekend visit. This was a pattern. I set my phone down and stared at the fireplace like it might give me answers. He canceled our weekend, I said slowly, because this weekend mattered to her, not because she was only in town. Holland's voice was sharp. He chose her. I nodded once, slow. Yes, the cabin was too quiet. The wind tapped the windows softly, like someone trying to get in. I felt like I was watching my relationship from far away, like it was a movie where the ending suddenly became obvious, and all the earlier scenes looked different now. Reed spoke carefully. What do you want to do? I swallowed. My instinct was to call Hayes and scream, to demand answers, to beg for truth, to explode so at least the pain would be loud enough to feel justified. But I could already hear how that would go. He would say I was crazy. He would say I was stalking. He would say it was innocent. He would say it was a joke. He would say I was insecure. He would twist the knife and call it love. So I kept my voice calm. I want to go home Monday, like I said, and I want to watch him lie to my face. Holland stared at me, startled. You want to confront him? No, I said, and my voice surprised even me with how steady it sounded. I want to let him talk. I want him comfortable. I want him to think he can manage me. Grant's eyebrows lifted. That is cold. I looked down at my hands. No, it's survival. That night I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his hand on her back. I saw the bracelet. I heard his voice telling me I was making it weird. In the early morning, the cabin was silent except for the soft popping of the fire. I slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen. The counters were cold. The air smelled like leftover smoke and coffee grounds. I made coffee and stood by the window, watching the pale sky lighten over the trees. My phone buzzed. Hayes again. You're really going to ignore me? Then another message. Sloane thinks you're being controlling. I stared at that sentence so hard my eyes watered. Sloane thinks. He had spoken about her to me like she was some random old acquaintance he barely remembered. And now he was telling me what she thought about me, like she had a vote. I did not reply. I took a screenshot. Then another message came in. She said, you always do this. You isolate me? I felt my stomach twist, not because I believed it, but because I recognized the strategy. He was building a story where he was the victim and I was the problem. A story he could hand to his friends so they would nod and say, yeah, she's dramatic. I took another screenshot. Then I opened our shared photo album, the one we used for trips and memories. I searched Sloane's name. Nothing. Of course. I searched for the bar location tag I saw on her profile. Nothing. Then I opened my own gallery and scrolled back through months of pictures. I checked dates. I checked weekends when Hayes said he was working late. I checked the times he said he was grabbing a quick beer with coworkers. My heart pounded as I found a photo I took of my dinner plate one night, a silly picture Holland had teased me about. In the background, barely visible on the counter, was a receipt. I zoomed in. The bar name was there. The same one from Sloane's post. My hand flew to my mouth. It was like the room tilted again, but this time I did not fall. I stood. I opened my notes app and wrote down everything I had. Dates, locations, screenshots, receipts, always gaps in the location history, his messages, her posts. I did it calmly, like I was documenting a work issue, because in a way, I was. A betrayal is still a pattern. Patterns can be tracked. When Holland woke up, she found me at the table with my phone, my notebook, my coffee gone cold. She sat down quietly. You look like someone who just found the real map. I swallowed. I think he's been seeing her longer than he's admitting. Holland's face hardened. Okay, then we move smart. Reed walked in behind her, rubbing his eyes. What's the plan? I looked at both of them, and my voice came out steady, almost calm. Monday, I go home. I don't accuse. I don't cry. I just ask one small question and let him answer. Grant wandered in, half awake, and leaned against the doorway. What question? I stared at my phone, at Hayes's last message sitting there like poison, and I chose the simplest, sharpest thing I could. I'm going to ask him, I said, to show me his wrist. The drive home on Monday felt longer than the drive up. The mountains were behind us, and the closer we got to the city, the more my chest tightened, like the air was turning heavy again. Holland kept glancing at me like she was waiting for me to break, but I did not. Not because I was fine, because my mind had finally stopped begging. Reed dropped me off a block away, just in case I needed a minute to breathe before I walked inside. Grant hugged me hard and said, remember, quiet wins. Then he got back in the car like this was an operation, not my life. I stood on the sidewalk with my suitcase handle in my hand, staring at my own front door. The porch light was off. The blinds were half open. The place looked normal. That was the part that always messed with me. Betrayal does not change the furniture. It just changes what the furniture means. I walked in and the smell hit me first. His cologne, coffee, the clean laundry detergent I always bought. I heard the television in the living room, low volume, like someone wanted background noise to hide their thoughts. Hayes stepped into the hallway with a smile that was too quick, Too practiced. There you are, he said, like he had been waiting by the door for a minute, not days. You seriously had me worried. I set my suitcase down gently. I kept my face calm. Worried about what? He blinked, then shrugged. About you. You disappearing like that. That was messed up, Waverly. There it was. Not an apology, not even curiosity, just the accusation, delivered softly, like he wanted it to sound reasonable. I nodded once, slow. Okay. He seemed thrown off by how easy I said it. He tried again, stepping closer. I mean, you could have just talked to me instead of punishing me. Punishing, like I was his parent. Like I owed him calm explanations while he rewrote our plans like they were optional. I looked at his wrist without moving my head. He was wearing a long sleeve shirt. Of course he was. I let my eyes lift to his face. How was your weekend? He hesitated, then smiled. Fine, it was fine. I saw some people caught up, you know. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. I nodded again. Okay. He frowned slightly. Why are you acting like this? I walked past him into the kitchen and set my keys in the bowl by the door like I always did. My hands were steady. My heart was not, but I refused to give him that. I turned and leaned against the counter. Can I ask you something simple? His shoulders loosened like he was relieved. Like he thought we were about to move into the part where he explains, and I forgive. Sure. I kept my voice light. Show me your wrist. He froze. Not a big dramatic freeze. A tiny one. A half second that told me everything. What? He said, laughing once like I made a weird joke. Why? I shrugged. Just show me. His eyes flicked away, then back. Babe, what are you doing? I waited, silent. He pulled his sleeve down farther, like the fabric could protect him. This is insane. I smiled politely, the kind of smile I used at work when someone tried to argue with facts. It's not insane. It's a wrist. He stared at me, searching my face for the emotion he could hook into. Anger, tears, anything. He could not find it. Finally, he rolled his sleeve up quickly, like a magician showing an empty hand. No bracelet. He lifted his eyebrows. Happy? I nodded slowly like I was considering. Where is it? His face stayed blank for a second too long. Where is what? The bracelet, I said calmly. The braided one. The one I made you. The one you told me you lost. He scoffed. Oh my god, you're still on that? I lost it. I told you. I let the silence hang. He shifted his weight. Why are you so obsessed with that stupid bracelet? It's just a bracelet. Just a bracelet. Just a weekend. Just a friend. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I did not wave it around. I did not shove it in his face. I simply tapped the screen, then turned it toward him. On the screen was the screenshot. His hand on her back. The bracelet on his wrist. Time stamped by the story. His face changed in layers. First confusion, then recognition, then anger like being caught was an insult to him. Are you stalking me? He snapped. I kept my voice soft. No, your friends posted you. He swallowed. That could be old. I tapped once. Another screenshot. Another clip. The same weekend. The same bar. His location gaps. His texts. Her public post with him in the background months earlier. The receipt I zoomed in on. I watched the exact moment his confidence started to leak. His voice rose. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're controlling. You're twisting things. I nodded. Okay. That one word made him flinch. It always did. Okay meant I was not arguing. Okay meant he had no stage. He tried a different angle, softer. Waverly, you don't understand. Sloan is going through a rough time. She needed support. Everyone was there. I tilted my head slightly. So you turned off your location for support. His mouth opened, then closed. I continued, calm, and you told her I isolate you. That I always do this, that I'm controlling. His eyes widened just a fraction. How do you know that? I looked down at my phone, then back up. You texted me. He stared, and then his face hardened. I was upset. You were building a story. I corrected gently. You were giving her lines to use against me, and you were giving yourself lines to use against me too. His jaw clenched. You're blowing this up. I took a slow breath. No, Hayes, you blew it up. You just didn't expect me to keep the pieces. For a second, he looked genuinely panicked. Then he did what he always did when he felt cornered. He attacked. You left for the weekend to hurt me, he said, voice sharper. You went no contact. You wanted me to suffer. I nodded once like I was listening. I went to the cabin because we had reservations, and because I finally understood you don't respect what I plan. You respect what you can get away with. He scoffed. So what? You're dumping me over a bracelet and a breakfast? I let the words sit for a moment, then I said quietly, I'm ending this because you made me compete with a ghost from your past, and you lied until you thought the lie was safer than me. His face twisted. It wasn't like that. I opened my bedside drawer, pulled out the ring box, and set it on the counter between us gently, like placing down something fragile. His eyes locked on it. He went still. For the first time since I walked in, he said nothing. I watched him realize what he canceled. I watched him realize what he threw away for a weekend of pretending. His voice finally came out smaller. Is that for me? I nodded once. It was. He reached for it, but I put my hand over the box, not touching him, just stopping him. Don't. His face tightened. Waverly, please. We can fix this. I kept my tone even. You said the cabin could be any time. You said commitments are flexible. So here's the flexible part. You can be with whoever you want, and I will be with someone who doesn't need reminders. He swallowed hard. You're seriously ending 2 years over this? I held his gaze. You ended it when you decided my birthday weekend was negotiable. He shook his head, angry again. This is dramatic. I smiled softly. No, it's final. I slid the ring box back toward myself, then lifted my phone again. Not as a threat, but as a boundary. I already emailed myself the receipts, I said. And I already spoke to the landlord. His eyebrows shot up. What? I stayed calm. The lease is in both our names. I'm taking mine off. You can keep the place or leave, but you're not keeping me stuck to you on paper. His mouth opened. He looked stunned, like he thought the relationship was the only thing at stake, like he forgot real life exists outside his excuses. You can't just do that, he said. I can, I replied, because I already did. His hands lifted helplessly. Where are you going? I picked up my suitcase handle again. Somewhere quiet. He stepped forward, voice cracking, trying to sound sincere now. Waverly, I didn't even sleep with her. I paused at the doorway and looked at him. Really looked. His hair was slightly damp like he showered recently. His shirt was clean. His wrist was bare, but the faint indentation from the bracelet was still there, like a ghost ghost ring around his skin. And I realized something with a cold clarity that almost made me laugh. He still thought the only betrayal that counted was physical. He still thought if he could shrink this down to one detail, he could negotiate it. I turned my head slightly. That's the part you want credit for? His face fell. I opened the door, then stopped one last time because I wanted him to hear this without drama, without tears, without the emotional performance he could twist. I didn't need you to love me perfectly, I said softly. I needed you to choose me clearly, and you didn't. I walked out. Behind me, he called my name once, loud, desperate. I did not turn around. In my car, I sat with the engine off and stared at the steering wheel until my breathing slowed. My phone buzzed. His name lit up the screen. I did not answer. I drove to Holland's place and carried my suitcase inside. She hugged me, and for the first time since the cabin, I let myself shake. Not because I regretted it, because my body was finally letting go of the fight. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. A new notification. Sloan had viewed my profile, then another. She followed me. I stared at that, my thumb hovering, and I understood the final twist without needing another screenshot. She was not just a friend. She was not just a weekend. She was watching to see if I would beg, because beggars make the best trophies. I blocked her quietly. Then I blocked him. Then I set my phone down and felt the first real peace I'd felt in months. I went to sleep without wondering what he was doing. I woke up without checking my phone, and when I opened my eyes, the silence did not feel like punishment anymore. It felt like freedom. Now let me step out of the story for a second and talk like a real person, because this kind of situation messes with your head in a very specific way. When someone breaks a promise, it's painful, but when they act like you're crazy for noticing, that's a different kind of damage. It makes you doubt your instincts. It makes you question what you saw with your own eyes. And if you're a loyal person, you start working overtime to be reasonable, to be chill, to be the version of yourself that doesn't create problems. That's how you get trapped, not with handcuffs, with hope. What helped me was getting quiet, not to punish, but to listen, to watch behavior instead of words. People will say anything when they're cornered. They'll call you controlling. They'll call you dramatic. They'll say you're gaslighting them when they're the one editing reality. And the moment you stop reacting, they start revealing. They get sloppy. They get confident. They make bigger moves because they think you're still trying to win them back. And here's the hardest part. Walking away isn't loud. It isn't cinematic. It's paperwork. It's boundaries. It's blocking. It's choosing peace even when your heart is begging for one more explanation. Closure doesn't come from a perfect apology. It comes from the moment you accept that the explanation is the behavior. That's it. That's the truth.